welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And I am so super excited with the person I've got on here today because he is a legend of the Magic community. He has done so much. He has created so much. I mean, you can just tell with the trophy behind him right there. You know, he's a man that's full pen and teller. Not many people can say that. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Adam Wilber. How you doing, Adam? You all right, mate?
Good. I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on here.
Mate, I'm really excited. I mean, we'll get to this, but I know how busy you are with Vulpine, and I know that you are working harder. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic or coming towards the end of a pandemic, and you're working harder than most people were before the pandemic. You know, you're really hustling right now. So thanks for finding time to jump on. I appreciate it. And I meant what I said. You know, you have done so much in the Magic community. You have been in not just as a creator, not just in your role in different companies, which we'll get to, but also, I mean, you travel around the world performing at a very high level, corporate events, and I know you do a lot of keynoting, and you know, you perform at a high level, and you see some creators and their whole thing is creating, but they might not be that successful as a performer. You're just as successful as a performer as you are as a creator, and it's amazing to see that what you've done, you've achieved so much in your career.
I appreciate it. I think that marriage of the two is what keeps me sane. I don't think I could do the creating without the performing, or vice versa. So I'm very lucky to have some of the opportunities I've had, and you know, it's kind of finding what you enjoy. We all love Magic, but there's a million things you can do in Magic. So it's just been kind of a 20-year struggle of finding exactly what it is, and I'm slowly getting there. Well, slowly figuring it out.
So, well, you've definitely, as far as I'm concerned, you got there ages ago. Now you're just doing the icing on the cake, man. Let's for those people that don't know much about you, or which I can't imagine there's many people, but let's just start from the very beginning, Adam. What's your origin story? What got you into Magic? When did it all begin?
6 years old, kid did Silk Vanish. A buddy, I was over at his house, and he had done a talent show, and he did a magic show. He did 2 tricks, a zombie and a rope trick. So I befriended him and went to his house, and he did a Silk Vanish, and he was very hard and fast on I Don't Tell the Secret. So I went and got the book, Klut's Book of Magic, and had it. I learned the Silk Vanish and showed my dad. And I was probably 7 at the time I showed him, and I fooled him. And I mean, I fooled my dad at 7, and that was like, I was hooked. It was a feeling like, my dad's a very smart, engineer-minded guy. And when I saw I actually fooled him, I was hooked. And then I showed everybody I could imagine that trick over and over. And then my parents were really supportive, and I got a really nice $100 set of scotch and soda. And that was my first real Magic prop. And I still have it to this day, but I did that, you know, thousands of times, because it's a killer trick, especially if you're new. And then, you know, just got the feeling of first fooling people, and you know, this makes me feel cool, and then slowly being able to entertain adults as a kid was a really cool thing for me. It made me feel like I was listened to, you know, like I was taken seriously as a child, and never looked back. And then just, you know, studied and performed as much as I could through college. Went to school to be a teacher, and halfway through my college for being a teacher, I was making more money performing than I ever would teaching, and stopped doing college and just went full-time performing.
Wow. Well, when did you do your first paid show? How old were you when you did your first show?
11, you know, birthday party for $25. Did a few of those. And then all through high school, I was a pretty bad kid. So I didn't put a lot of time or energy into marketing and performing. It was just showing friends and stuff. And then in college, I got like $1,000 gig for a couple hours of strolling. And I just remember thinking, wait a minute, I just did 2 hours of what I love to do, and I got $1,000 in cash. Like, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So my first real proper gig that was like money was about halfway through college. And then, you know, it takes a long, you know, probably more than most performers, it's the business, right? You can be great at performing and that's fine, but you're not going to be a successful magician if you don't first and foremost understand the business. And that took me quite some time to learn, and I'm still learning it. I'm not good at business as far as, you know, getting shows and things like that, but I'd say towards the end of college is when I started reading books on business and marketing and you know, value propositions and things like that, and started taking it a lot more serious. But got some roadblocks and didn't love it because I didn't love the business side. I hate being told no, and more than that, I hate selling. Like I want, if you want me, great, but if I have to convince you that I'm worth X amount, I don't want to have that conversation. So did a bunch of odd jobs and, you know, partied a lot and just did a lot of stupid stuff through my 20s into my 30s. And then at 30, had my first kid and was like, all right, you know, it's time to take this seriously. And that was right when I stumbled into Illusionist, and I kind of got the best of both worlds, was getting to perform, but also getting to create magic. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. You know, somebody paying you for your ideas and then other magicians saying, hey, thanks for that. I like performing it. It was like, I didn't even know that existed, you know? So it was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it forever. So just love magic. You know, I love everything about magic. Can't stop thinking about magic. And that's the only thing I'm going to be good at, right? In some way, I'm going to have to make my living with magic because I know it's my calling. And I think a lot of people know, you know, you're a magician. There's not much else that life will put in your way that will ever stop you from being it. And it's just kind of finding the lane, you know, finding what you're good at, what you know you can handle, which is, for me, not the pick up the phone and call 600 people a month and hope 10 of them book you. It's not it. So I'm lucky I get to marry the creating with the performing.
And it was probably being an illusionist that put you on the map of a lot of people. And I want to talk about illusionist in a bit, but before I do, let's just rewind and just talk about a couple of things that you mentioned there. Number one, you said, I love magic. I love magic. And I know you do. I know you're so passionate about magic and not just creating, but performing and absolutely everything. Do you have any advice for magicians that are losing their passion? Because I've seen all over social media, especially over the last year with COVID, I've seen magicians drop out of magic completely that are amazing and have just turned their back on it. But I've also seen people say, hey, you know what? I haven't picked up a deck of cards in 3 months. I can't find it within myself to practice. What's the point if I've got no one to perform for? But you've carried on, you know, so any advice on how people can remain passionate about magic, even in a period of time where they feel like their passion is waning slightly?
Yeah, well, it's a tough question, and the irony of it is everyone loses passion. I mean, as soon as what you love becomes what feeds you, there's a big conflict, right? It's how you take something that you love and turn it into a career. It's very hard for people to do in any field. So it's okay to lose passion and it's okay to step away. I've found, and the breaks that I've taken, maybe the longest I've ever taken of really like putting it down and walking away was when I was really diving into keynotes. And I would do some magic in my keynotes, but I wasn't studying magic, performing magic, and it's about 6 to 8 month break. Well, after that break, I came back and like my moves were easier. It was like that break made me a better performer technically. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to relearn all my sleights, and I was just on fire. So I find when I take these little breaks, I come back and the muscle memory kicks in, and I almost feel like I'm better at it. Now, the losing the performing and not being in front of people, that's daunting, right? Like a lot of performers and friends I have now are just starting to get back into live shows again, and they start feeling like they're novices again, right? Because we haven't been in front of people for a year. And I think that losing of the passion and regaining it is a healthy thing. And if you try and fight it and you're just not into magic at some point, you don't want to perform, or you're a little depressed or whatever it is, I always just tell people, take care of yourself first, mind, body, and spirit. Whether that means, start eating right or working out a bit or meditating or doing what you need for your peace of mind, that has to come first, because a lot of magicians and performers in general can face depression, and it's just kind of plagues the industry a bit. And I think it's entertainers in general. But if you can take care of yourself first, you might or you might not come back to magic. But the most important thing is taking care of you. Because then if you do come back into magic after taking care of yourself and maybe getting a little more connected with yourself or your environment, your magic will be significantly better because of all these life lessons you've learned in helping yourself. Whereas if you just try and force it and go, no, I'm just going to practice every day, I'm going to find someone to perform to, that comes off as well, right? And you can see entertainers that don't look like they're having fun because they've lost their passion. If you've lost the passion, okay, that's fine. There's no rule that says you can't lose and regain your passion. I think fighting that is problematic. And a lot of times when I get it, it's because I'm in bouts of depression, right? So I don't want to do anything. I'm lacking motivation in every part of my life. And when I feel that coming on, it's get outside, exercise an hour a day, start eating healthy, start juicing, and start meditating. And then I'll slowly start getting my head right. I'll get my motivation back. Once I have my motivation back, the only thing I'm really good at is magic. So that's where my motivation usually leads to. But, taking breaks is fine. The one thing I would stress is that you don't get down on yourself for losing that passion. And, really treat yourself like your best friend, which a lot of people, myself included, forget to do. We're all busy and we have other obligations and stuff, but we always have to take care of ourselves first. And when I would lose passion in the past, it would always be beating myself up for it. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? I'm a magician and I'm not even having fun performing anymore. That's okay. It's okay to not be okay all the time, and just treat yourself with the respect you deserve. And if you come back to it passionately, great. If you don't, it might lead to something, even better for you.
That is brilliant advice. It really is amazing advice. I want to ask you, really good. I want to ask you one more question as well before we move on to Illusionist. You talked about how you read lots of business books and you didn't really like selling your show, which I totally get. A lot of people are like that. A lot of magicians, they don't really get the business side of things, which is cool. But even though even though that you didn't like selling yourself, you've still always been very, very successful as a performer. So do you have any advice on how to get gigs when you first start out? Because that's the thing that everybody wants to know, isn't it? I've made the leap. I'm going to become a semi-pro. I'm going to become a pro. How do I get the gigs? Is there any advice that you can give on that?
Suck it up and get into as many restaurants as you can. Find the clientele you want to work for, get into those restaurants and if you can do 5 a week, do 5 a week. You're going to become a better performer and it's the best marketing in the world. You're in front of people that have money to go pay, to go out to dinner, to be entertained. If you're a good performer, they're going to hire you. Anytime I would move from one city to another and have to reestablish, I would find higher end. And it sucks. You're going to get told no 90% of the time, but you need one, right? One restaurant that gets what you're there for, and don't try and make a fortune off of it. Know that you're there to market, right? You're really more of an liability than an asset for that place. So know that going in and know that it's marketing. If you can get some table tents out, and work the game. But the best and easiest way I've ever found to get shows quickly is to get into a restaurant, making sure that, if you want to do corporate shows, you're not going to go to a family restaurant. That's pretty common sense. But find a restaurant that has the clientele you want and do everything you can to get a residency there. That's the only thing I've found success with. I've tried calling people and sending cold emails, and I lose motivation very quickly when I don't see the fruit of my labor, right? And that's a numbers game. Probably better than anybody. That's a 100% number. You got to have the marketing material and be at least affluent enough that you can speak on the phone and sell your product, but it's still a numbers game, and I just hate that. It feels to me like I'm wasting my life trying to sell someone on something they don't want. And I can't stand it. But you walk into a restaurant, and if you're good at what you do, that's your market, right? You hand out business cards, you let people know, hey, I do this for a living. I'd love to do your corporate event or your birthday party or whatever it is.
And the other thing that restaurants will do for you is it will give you so much flight time. You'll Absolutely. Go from being a good magician to being a great magician because you'll have seen every single situation a million times.
Exactly right. Yep. I always tell people, Well, how did you get good at magic? I worked in a magic shop and I worked in restaurants. And those two things force you to become a good performer on your feet, right? And quickly learn it's not about the tricks. Nobody cares about the tricks. They want you to entertain them. And if you can entertain them, you win, right? If you're doing tricks, that's cool and that's neat, but that's not entertainment, right? If you want to entertain somebody, you have to understand that it's about them. It's about this back and forth between you and the audience. And the best way I found to do that is to suck a lot. And if you work at a magic shop or in a restaurant, you can suck a lot, you know?
Yeah. And even if you've got the worst table in the world, 2 minutes later, you got a brand new table. You can try it again. You can work in material. You can figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yep.
100%. 100%. Again, great advice. So let's talk about Illusionist. I want to talk about how that all came about. But first of all, obviously, your role in Illusionist, partly, amongst other things, was creating magic. Were you creating magic before you landed at Illusionist? When did you kind of get the creating bug?
It's funny, and I talk about this in my speeches. I never knew I was creative until I was 30 years old. I just assumed, like a lot of people, there are creative people and then there are, logic-minded people. And that was just the norm. And schools, especially in the United States, they emphasize that. They push that, follow this industrial way, do what we do. And then, and that worked back in the 40s and 50s because we needed factory workers and we needed people to follow rules, but they never stressed or said anything about creativity. And then, after college, I got into some trouble and I was, making poor life choices. And I was at a place where I thought I was going to go to prison. I was pretty sure I was doing time in prison for selling pot, right? I was selling pot at the time and I got arrested for it and I was scared. It was not looking good. And I had this year of unknown, of basically the DEA saying, we'll be in touch. And I had to just sit there and I was losing my mind. So I started playing around with some cards. And I remember specifically, remember the Torn and Restored card? I'm forgetting his name. He's a great UK magician, really great guy.
Guy Hollingsworth?
One Card Link. The One Card Link. Do you remember that?
Ben Williams, is it?
Ben Williams. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ben Williams' original One Card Link. And I'm just sitting there learning magic. And, the method of that is cool. And it was new to me. It's the same as the Torn and Restored newspaper. I didn't know that principle of rubber cement. I'd never heard of it. So in my head, I was like, there's no way this works. And I started developing this trick called earbuds. And it just worked. It was like God came down and went, you know what? Ding. Because every single thing I tried, there was no prototyping. Everything worked. And within that night, I invented my first trick. And I had some roommates and I was like, come. And I showed all my roommates and they were truly floored. They had no clue how this was working. So I submitted that to Illusionist on a big contest that they had offered where you'd win an iPad full of all their projects. And I went overboard. I had a professional film guy film me on the streets of Burlington. And I did this really epic video for the contest. And I was like, I'm winning. And it's first, second, third. So I'm winning something. I won nothing. I didn't win first. Jeff Price won first. I remember that. I didn't get second or third either. And I was like, I know this is good. I see the reactions. Like, I know this is a good trick. So I was really, really discouraged and kind of pissed off. And then Jason Brumbelow reached out and said, hey, the reason we didn't let you win is because we want to put that out. That's an incredible trick. Can we put that out with Illusionist? And I was like, oh, okay. Now we're on to something. So that was the first trick with Illusionist. And the very first time a magician friend of mine said, you're creative, or said something in that line, was Josh J, because I submitted a trick to Magic Magazine and just sent it in. And I remember he wrote back, hey, thanks so much for your creative take on this classic plot, or something like, we love the creativity in this. And that was the very first time, I was 29 or 30, that somebody had ever said to me, you're creative. And it wasn't just somebody, it was Josh J, right? And I'd looked up to Josh forever. And
name, yeah.
I mean, it rocked my world, which is when the earbuds came about, and then Illusionist backing up, hey, that is creative, we want to do it. I started thinking, well, maybe I do have something to offer. And then I never really stopped. I put out earbuds. It did really well, got a lot of really good positive feedback, and got my foot in the door at Illusionist as well. And then I just said, look, if people like this, I'm just going to keep doing this. And opened some notebooks and have been writing in notebooks ever since, you know.
So when did, I suppose the question is, how did you get to a point where Illusionist offered you a job? Like, I mean.
So after earbuds, Brumbelow and I kind of became friends, and he said, hey, do you want to run our forums? And that was back when they had forums. I said, yeah, absolutely. I don't think they paid it was like $300 a month, and I was going to moderate and do some stuff there. And I did that for about a year, and I got some pretty good interviews. Like I got Richard Turner, I interviewed him, Sean Farquhar. I had some cool stuff. And I'm sorry, I tried to get Richard Turner. I didn't get Richard Turner, but I got Sean Farquhar. And Jason Brumbelow was moving out of the company at that time. I became really good friends with Peter McKinnon, who was the cinematographer at the time, and did Magic Live. Brad said, hey, we need someone at Magic Live. Can we send this forum guy? And I went with Pete, and we became really close. Pete pushed a lot to sort of say to Brad, hey, you might want to consider hiring this guy for real. Brad and I had a couple of conversations, and I was in corporate America. I worked at a company called Seventh Generation in the human resources department, and you know, just said, hey, I think I could help your company, and here's what I can offer. And he gave me a chance, and didn't know me from Adam, excuse the pun, but we had a great call, and he said, I said, I don't know if you believe in signs. I just finished a gig, got his call, pulled out of the parking lot at the gig, and it was a beautiful venue. I mean, they probably spent $100,000 on this event. And I'm pulling out, I stop because it's Brad Christian, and I'm shaky and nervous and having the conversation with him. And I go, Brad, I don't know if you believe in signs or not. And it was right as we basically said, you're hired. I said, as soon as we said that, the fireworks display went off in my rearview mirror. So the event's fireworks hit almost to the second of when Brad said, we'd like to hire you on. And I was like, I don't know if you believe in signs, but there's fireworks going off behind me. And that was sort of the start of it all.
That's amazing. And that must have been a dream come true, because you've said already you love marrying together creating and performing. You're now being given an environment where you can do that. And you have the resources of E behind you to make things possible that you never thought before were possible. I mean, dream job, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at that time, I had just gotten out of, you know, I was still worried about my court case and what would happen with that, and had a kid on the way, and, you know, life was in turmoil. And that was a really nice rock of positivity for me. You know, this idea that I can actually make a living and support a family doing this blew my mind. I mean, I always knew magic companies existed, but I never really put it together where I was like, whoa, like this is a business. Like you can make money with your ideas to other magicians. And like you said, I had the backing of Illusionists. Brad and the team he had in place were unbelievable. I mean, the amount I learned at that company is, you know, I'll take with me for the rest of my life. It was invaluable. There's no way you could put a price on it. So.
And you were there for quite a long time, weren't you? Like several.
Just under 8 years, yeah.
So you saw a lot of people come and go. You saw a lot of people come and go. What? And while you were there, you created some really big products that were just like iconic.
I think probably one of the best-selling magic tricks of all time, just because of how much it made, was Pyro.
I was about to say, you created Pyro, didn't you? I mean, that thing is massive.
It went. I mean, that was the first time I spent a lot of Brad's money and took a chance, and it flopped when we first launched it. And I was like, well, that was a fun run, but I'm done. I mean, I'm screwed. You know, I spent a bunch of his money. It's not selling. I talked it up, and By the grace of God, some people on Reddit started talking trash about it in the trailer, saying, who's this pot-bellied hipster walking through the desert lighting off fireworks, and just making fun of the trailer. But in that, it got eyes on it, right? So because everyone was talking trash about it, it started up ranking. And now all these eyes are going, well, wait, hold on, talk trash, but what the hell is this thing? This thing shoots fireballs? And it went viral outside of Magic, way outside of Magic. Engadget.
I've seen adverts for this, like just in just normal magazines. Like, it's transcended Magic, and it's just something that's just everywhere. Even to this day, even right now, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, it's been ripped off a million times. And but that was the first one where my eyes were open to the potential of, you know, is that a magic trick? No, it's I've never really used that in a show. And if I do, the shows I would use it in, it would either be hidden behind a prop. In a keynote speech, I make a point and I shoot fireballs, but I'm still emphasizing that I invented this thing, right? So I don't even, it's not a magic trick. It's a prop and it's a toy. And that was the first idea I had of, there's potential to make millions of dollars inventing toys and gadgets and magic, and to take almost to take magic more seriously than even I thought it could be taken as far as inventing magic. You know, it wasn't, if you get lucky, you'll sell a couple hundred units and people might know your name. It was, if you do this right, there's millions of dollars to be made, you know, and it's cool because us as magicians and creators, we think a whole lot differently than a lot of people, which means we can solve problems a whole lot differently than a lot of people. So imagine if half the creative magicians out there started thinking of what problems they could solve for the general public instead of what magic trick they could invent. You know, it's pretty interesting. So it was really an exciting time for me at E with the launch of Pyro.
Yeah, well, you were there 8 years, and obviously you created a lot of magic. What else was your role at Illusionist, Adam?
So I went from forum director to product development, I think, and that's when Pyro came out. And then, yeah, it was forum director, product development, and then after Pyro, general manager. And then I, you know, as general manager, I worked with Brad closely and continued to develop products, but also helped with the manufacturing and prototyping and dealing with mainly China in the development of other people's products and reaching out to artists and, you know, just GM stuff, but really with a heavy focus on create more stuff, you know.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of questions on this. And the first question is, obviously, as general manager, you oversaw submissions and people creating magic and submitting it to Illusionist. I've talked about this on the channel before. It's the holy grail for magicians to be a creator and have a company sell their product for them or whatever it may be. Do you have any advice on what somebody needs to do to go to a company like Illusionist and get on their radar? Because I can't imagine how many people submit a trick and it's not even, you know, it's ended up just on the floor. And, you know, you guys must have so many submissions daily. How do you get on the radar of the people at Illusionist and other similar companies?
Good question. The advice I give to anyone who wants to put a product out is to look at the video that you're sending for your submission. First and foremost, don't ever send an idea. If you're sending somebody an idea, forget about it. Unless it's an unbelievable idea that's very well thought out and designed, you're not going to get looked at. It's better to build a prototype, perform the prototype 100 times. So you've got a routine, you've got not a gimmick or a prop, but you've got a magic trick. Then film that magic trick. That's what they want to see, right? And don't try and hide the method or think that they're going to steal. I've never really heard in all of my time in the magic industry of a company taking a submission, stealing it and putting it out on their own. It just doesn't happen. So give them a short, succinct video of you performing the effect as you would actually perform it. Get a friend, do the effect, and then cut and do a 2-minute explanation of the gimmick. And that's it. So have something that's worth showing, film it, performed, and then quickly say, here's how that works.
Yeah.
And if you've got any sort of business or manufacturing prowess, then just say, hey, I think we could get these made this way. But if not, that's fine. Just make sure that the effect is on there as you would perform it. Because as a company, what they want to see is, we can take this to our manufacturer, have it made, and we don't have to worry about teaching this person how to perform, coming up with a routine for them, tweaking the design so it actually works, because all they have is an idea. Make it as easy as possible for them. And the easiest way to do that is to say, here's the video, here's the gimmick, here's how it works. Let me know if you're interested.
Wow. That's brilliant advice. Absolutely brilliant advice. And if they don't hear back, keep going.
Go to another company. Go to, one other piece of advice is, don't ever go to a company and say, oh, just so you know, Murphy's already offered me this for it. What would you offer? That's just, it's not good business, right? You're putting an ultimatum on something that you're asking for. So it's a win-win for you either way, right? Why do that? If there are other companies interested, great, but don't try and use that as leverage, because that just upsets people. But know what it is. I saw so many variations of a double lift, or, do your research, and I don't get upset if you don't get responded to, right? Just send a second email as a follow-up. If no one responds, send a second email. Hey, just confirming you got this. And if you still don't get a response, move on. Either they didn't like it, go to another company with it. If you get multiple no's, then take that breath and realize it's probably a crap product, or at least it needs a lot more work before someone's going to be interested,
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, and that's the problem with a lot of magicians these days. They try to rush things to market. I've talked on this channel openly about terrible magic products and terrible magic downloads. It happens all the time. I think that we're in an industry now where people can self-publish very, very easily, and there's stuff coming out all the time, and it hasn't been worked in properly. I think it's really important advice what you're saying there. Make sure that it's something that you have a finished product and not an idea. Yeah, that makes total sense.
If you're trying to be a creator, then you're not going to get rich off one product, right? And if you want that, then don't invent magic. Like I said, solve problems for people. A book I just read is called Future Proof Yourself. And the whole idea is, write down 30 problems that you have every week, and then start solving those. And if you think, oh, a lot of other people have these problems, if you do that every week, you're going to invent something that helps a lot of people. So first and foremost, you're doing good and you're helping people. And secondly, the more people you help, the more money you'll get, So if it's about making money and only making money, then don't invent magic. But if it's about putting your brand out there and putting products out there that you think will help people entertain other people, hey, I like entertaining people with this, maybe someone else will. Then you're building a brand. And the minute you put out a crap rushed product, you've done more damage to your brand than waiting the 6 months or a year until it's a good product. Some companies don't come back from that. I won't name names, but there are companies out there that they've put themselves under because of the amount of crap products they put out, where half their library is awesome, the other half is crap. If you just eliminated the crap and focused on the awesome, they'd probably still be in business,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. One more question about Illusionist. Obviously, we've talked about marketing earlier on and marketing yourself. One thing that Illusionists have always done is they've had very strong marketing campaigns, and a lot of the time it's controversial. I remember the Madison stuff, the I am better than the Erdnays, and then more recently you've got the Back to Black campaign and all this sort of stuff. How much did you get involved in the marketing side of things?
Very little. I mean, I didn't do the trailers. If it was my product, I might help with some of the ad copy, but very, very little. I'm not a marketer, but I always say to people, it's like if you bought a Playboy magazine and got offended that there were naked girls in it. You know what you're signed up for.
Yeah.
You know what Illusionist is. If you've stumbled upon Illusionist and done more than a month of research, you know exactly what the company is, what they're about, what their brand is. I don't get why so many people are surprised, right? Back to Black and the Erdnase Madison thing. Illusionist is based off this rock star, magic is cool type thing, right? And controversy comes with that. And at the end of the day, good marketing is good controversy, right? Like that can be good marketing. I always say it's content that sells. Brad said that all the time. It's content is king. Content is king. So there are people that in my time at Illusionist would be like, oh, I can't wait till you leave there because then I could start buying their products. And then I'd go to their house and they got shelves of Illusionist products. So it's like people are closet Illusionist fans, but they still want their products because they put out good products. Like at the end of the day, not everything E does is great, but most of their products are good, well produced and well marketed products. So, it's like, you know what you're getting into when you're supporting Illusionist, and that's their company. That's the way it works for them. But they wouldn't have lasted if they didn't follow it up and back it up with rock star products done well. So, I think it's a funny thing. There's so much clickiness in magic and so many groups that like these groups and don't like these groups. And this is the right way, that is the wrong way. It's all of us forgetting why we do magic, which is not about us, right? None of it has to do with us. It's about the people that we're performing for. Because without them, we're a bunch of dorks sitting around at a convention, hanging out with ourselves, right? Like magic, we all know you can't sit there and magic yourself. You need someone else to do it. And the second it becomes about us, we've lost the whole point, right? We've lost the entire magic of what magic can be, which is taking somebody out of their norm and giving them a little bit of a change of their perspective to say, life is so much cooler than you might have thought. And let me show you how. Let's share this experience. But in magic, these guys are cool, these guys aren't. That's good magic, this is bad magic. There's no such thing as good and bad magic. Like on Penn and Teller Fool Us, I did nickels to dimes, Buddha paper mystery, a money rolling machine. And the whole point of doing that was to go on there to say, these tricks that people laugh at can be done on the biggest stage in the world on national TV effectively, because the tricks don't mean anything. What we're saying, how we're saying it, how we make people feel, that's what means something, So I just think it's, it's good to take breaks from the magic community sometimes and stop following people on Instagram. And, I've gone through years where I'll just unfollow every magician on social media because I don't want the bombardment. I don't want my opinion of what someone else is doing to interfere with my creativity. So, we're an interesting breed of people, magicians. And I think the more magicians that realize it really isn't about us and it shouldn't be about us, the better magic will be in the long run.
Totally agree with you. Completely agree. So here's a question. Why did you leave Illusionist? You've got your dream job. You're getting a chance to create magic. You've got access to Brad Christian's money to be able to put stuff together like Pyro. You're the general manager. You got your fingers in almost every single pie. Everybody knows who Adam Wilber is. What made you decide to leave?
Well, a lot of things, but the majority, the main reason is my work suffered. My choices, that I was making were suffering. At that point, when I left Illusionist, was a pretty nasty point in my life. My wife, how would I say this? My family fell apart, pulled out from under me. And my work suffered, my life in general suffered, and it was time. When I started there, I had some of the best friends I'd ever made in my life as my coworkers, and it was a dream come true. And over time, things changed. My attitude changed. My work ethic for them changed. Animosity set in. It was beyond time for me to go, and it was becoming more apparent by the day. I needed a hard reset. Excuse me one second. I needed a hard reset in life. and some serious soul searching and some serious, finding of myself. And I'm realistically just coming out the other side of that. So I left for a lot of reasons, partly just lack of showing up, of being, I wasn't a general manager at that point. I was there for a paycheck, and then when your work suffers and you lose motivation and you lose the passion of being a team player, it's palpable, right? You can't expect people to show up and do their best if the person who's supposed to be leading them isn't. You can't have people, you can't be a good leader if you're not in a place where you can lead. And there was just a lot that got thrown into my life at once. A lot of things that I had to sit down and go, this isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be. This isn't how I live my life. And it was time. And at the time it sucked, but it was also great. And then it's been almost 2 years now. Over the last 2 years, it's been amazing, right? It's allowed me to, the one thing I've always wanted to do was to never have someone to answer to. And if I want to put something out, I want to put something out because I believe in it for my reasons. And that's hard to do if you don't own a company. That's almost impossible to do if you don't own a company. And that freedom has been, I've never had a creativity boost and inspiration like I have over the last year and a half out of necessity. I've got children to feed, and I lost, the best year I ever had was my last year at Illusionist performing. And I hate when people don't, actually, I probably shouldn't say how much I made. I made a lot on that last year, more than I've ever made performing. And then pandemic hit. So I left flying high. I'm doing a couple keynotes a month. I'm doing pretty much any shows I want to be doing. And then it's all done, right? All shows canceled. And then it was like, well, now what? I don't have a job. I don't have performing. I don't have a wife anymore. What the hell am I going to do? And it was just again, that going away and being okay with losing passion and sort of soul searching and finding yourself and taking care of yourself first is, that was a year of my life, which was just reading a lot of books and diving deep. And being an alcoholic, I had stepped away from AA. And for me, AA was a lifesaver. So getting heavily back into that. And all these little pieces of the puzzle start coming together to complete me as a father and as a human and as somebody who can make mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, instead of make mistakes, compound those mistakes, continue feeling sad and lonely and depressed. So I took almost a year away, but in that whole year of finding myself, I'm learning new things and getting interested in new things and learning more about 3D printing and all this stuff that, while it has nothing to do with magic, once the muse of magic came back to me, all of that stuff just compounded on the effectiveness of my creativity and magic. Yeah. And so a lot of the students I tell, learn as much as you possibly can about everything you never thought you'd want to learn, and continue to do that, because it will blow your mind how you can take things from outside fields and put them in whatever you want to be doing. And that's all innovation is. Innovation is taking things from other non-connected fields and connecting them in a way that's never been done before. We as magicians should be able to do that more than anybody, right? The way our brains think, the way we have to structure magic, and all of that is things that most people never get to learn. And these are life lessons that if we use outside of magic are unbelievably beneficial. So if you can learn, like I was learning about knitting, and there's a tool in knitting. It was a magazine. I picked it up and started, flipping through. There's a tool in knitting that solved a problem for a prototype in one of my magic tricks. That trick never would have come to the life if I didn't pick up a magazine about knitting. You know what I mean? So I had a good year after Illusionist to sort of do my soul searching, get interested in things that weren't magic, take care of myself, and then come back with a vengeance.
And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. When you left E, you kind of stepped away from magic a little bit. You kind of moved away. You disappeared out of the community. You weren't anywhere on any sort of social media channels or anything like that. Even as a performer, you were doing more of the keynote side of things than you were actually going out and performing. And to be clear, you were very, very successful at it. And you just said, obviously, that all came crashing down when COVID hit. We're now in a situation where, and I want to talk about this in a minute, where you're running Vulpine. Is that right? Vulpine Industries. So my question is, before we start talking about it, because I know that you've got some big goals with this company, if COVID hadn't happened, would Vulpine have existed? Or would
Never
you
in a million years.
would you have carried on doing the keynoting and flying high, and would you carried on doing that side of things? Did Vulpine come about as necessity, is kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm partly necessity and partly just, you know, the way things lined up. Sitting at home, again, you can sit here and feel sorry for yourself and wake up at 3 in the afternoon and be depressed, or you can get your head out of your ass and do something, you know. And there's a book I read, I try and read multiple times a year. It's just called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And the whole point of it is just like, you know, we don't have much time. We really don't. Whether you believe in God or you believe that you're dead, you're dead. Whatever it is, it's a very small amount of time on this planet. And a lot of us spend so much of that worrying about things that will never happen, right? And just trying to wake up and take every moment and say, okay, look, I can be sad or upset about this, or this might happen, or I might have that, or be productive and create more, consume less. And for me, as an addict and an alcoholic, I have a certain mindset. And if I am into something, I'm very into it. So if I'm depressed, I can get very depressed, right? I can isolate in that feeling. But if I'm in that, it might be watching hours and hours of YouTube, aimlessly staring at a screen, right? Just wasting life, essentially. Where if I'm consuming less and creating more, I might not be creating a whole bunch of great stuff, but 1 or 2 of those are going to be gems. And if that gem comes to fruition, all of that was worth it. And slowly starting to see that in the evidence of my work, sit here and complain and do nothing, or put in the work and have something cool to show. And the more you can do that over and over again, the more it becomes addictive, right? And that's what I need. I need that addictive rush of something. And putting something out, or making someone feel a certain way in a keynote speech, or having a magician say, hey, you know, my son has autism. And when I showed him Grandfather's Top, I've never seen that kind of thing, is addicting to me. So now I can create more and consume less, but still have that addictive sort of push. But to answer the question, I know Vulpine just wouldn't have happened because I would have been in that go, 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 go. Now make more money, now do more speeches, now do whatever it might be. And I wouldn't have had the scare of kind of forcing myself to take care of myself again, sit down and go, okay, you don't get to control the way the world works, but you're now in this situation. What are you going to do? Are you going to create stuff, or are you going to sit here and consume stuff and waste your life away? And a lot of people consume, you know, some people consume food, some people consume videos, some people consume bad conversations with bad people, and they get into this consumption mode instead of creating. And creating doesn't mean making something. Creating can mean creating a conversation or a connection with somebody. You know, creating a time in your month where you call your mother at least once a week, whatever it is. But, you know, it sounds like positive thinking, like do more good than harm. But I think for me specifically, when I get into that consumption mentality is when I get really dark, really depressed, really lonely. When I can get into that create mentality, I feel alive. I feel like I can be addicted to good things instead of being addicted to self-loathing or, you know, alcohol or something. So the pandemic gave me that chance to sit down and go, cool, I have nothing but time. It's like you and I were talking about, right? You said this YouTube channel, it's now or never. If I don't do it now, what excuse will I have when I'm actually busy and there's no pandemic going on? You know what I mean? And it was the same sort of push. And then, you know, I believe in my God for what that to be. And he put some amazing people in my life at the right time. You know, Felix, my business partner, and I just randomly and weirdly everything sort of worked out. And I put some effort in, but the rest was up to the universe, you know.
That's amazing. And I want to find out all about Vulpine, but before I ask you the question, let me ask you one more thing. You just said that Vulpine wouldn't have existed if the pandemic haven't hit, because you were flying high, and now in retrospect you're looking at the situation you find yourself in with Vulpine, and I know you're so passionate about what you're doing. We spoke off camera before. I know you're so passionate and fired up about what you guys are achieving with this company, and that's great. Let me ask you a question. If I could snap my fingers and make the pandemic go away tomorrow, and your phone starts ringing up with clients wanting keynote speeches left, right, and center. We want to book Adam. We want to book Adam. We want to book Adam. Would you carry on doing Vulpine now that you kind of have looked at your situation and you're gone, well, you know, I'm in a better place doing this? Or would you kind of go back to doing all of the stuff that you were doing pre-pandemic?
So the one thing that I want to be the best at that I possibly can is to be a father. And, you know, I had the best father a person could dream of, and I want that for my kids. So no, I don't want to. With keynote speeches, I live in East Nowhere, New Hampshire. I live in Wolfboro, New Hampshire. For me to do any sort of real keynote where I'm getting the money I want, I'm driving, if I'm lucky, to Boston, a couple hours, but more often than not out of the country, which means I'm gone for 5 days. 2 days of travel, do your speech, a day of travel back. And I don't want that life, right? My kids are 6 and 8, and I get them for 1 week, then their mom gets them for the next week. You know, as an entertainer, you don't get to schedule your shows when that fits your schedule, right? So it's a bit unfair to their mother for me to expect her to take them whenever I have a show. And it's also not the life I want to live far away from my kids. If I have my kids, I want my kids and my time uninterrupted. And the easiest way for me to do that would be to continue inventing, do the speeches and the shows that are local that I want to do, not that I need to do. So I don't think I would go back. Well, I love being on stage, and I love the money that comes with it, and I love helping people and enlightening people through words and stuff. I love my kids more, and I really don't want to get to a point. It started to get to that. That's part of why my marriage failed. Was, you know, I'm an addict. So if I'm addicted to work, I'm addicted to work, right? And I don't want to live that anymore. I want to, over the last year, I've had more time with my kids, more bonding with them, and more real magic because of that than any amount of money could change. So the goal is to get Vulpine sustaining my bills. I don't plan to get rich off Vulpine, and I don't care to. I want it to pay my bills and allow me the freedom to sit in my office, do what I think I do best, which is invent magic, sell it to people who can make people smile, and then pick and choose the shows that I want to do. And ideally, really find something local that's like you know, once a month I get my theater show. So I get my performing fix. You know, I mean, most of the stuff you create, does it come from performing and going, wait a minute, this might work here. This might, like, I don't see how people cannot be performers and create good magic. I'm not saying there aren't, because there are amazing creators that don't really perform. It boggles my mind how they can come up with things without being in that performing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some of the best stuff I've come up with is mid-trick going, I gotta mental note that when I get home, you know? So I still need to perform because I need the fix. I need people to tell me I'm great, right? But in a perfect world, if I said, where do I want to be in 3 years? It would be running a very successful magic company where we're really just striving to put out good magic that pays my bills, and I get to be a father to my kids.
Amazing. In fact, I can totally relate as well, because I've got a 6 and an 8-year-old, and our stories have paralleled in some ways, in that I walked away from the magic community and I came back, and I totally 100% get where you're coming from, Adam. I'm really
how do you, because you're killing it. I mean, you're probably one of the busiest, one of the quietest, busiest performers in the game. I'm not talking about UK, I'm talking about in the world, which any listeners who don't know that, do a bit of research. If you want to learn how to be a magician, study Craig and everything that he's doing. I've reached out to you years ago. I don't know if you remember on
I
LinkedIn.
remember we talked about LinkedIn and we talked about marketing. I remember the conversation.
Even back then, I remember going and having this conversation with a friend saying, watch, this guy and his company are going to kill it. And just watching that evolution has been amazing. So how do you balance being a father? Does your wife, is she a full-time mom, or does she work as well?
My wife's the MD of the companies. So my wife worked in education. She was a deputy head of a primary school. And when I did, and my story parallels yours in many ways. I was a struggling magician, and she came home about 9 years ago and said, "Hey, I've got good news. I'm pregnant." And she had a very good job, and she basically kept us. And she said, "Yeah, I'm pregnant." And I'm like, "That's amazing." And she went, "Yeah, but now you need to step up, because I'm not going back to school and working full time. That's not going to happen. So you need to either make this magic thing work, or we need to come up with a plan B, but we need to do something." And then I had a switch flicked in my head at that point, and everything changed. And I realized that if I wanted to give my wife and my kids the life I wanted them to have, I couldn't dick around as I had been doing up until that point. I needed to sort myself out. And that's what I did. And Sarah became the MD of all the companies because she's super organized. I'll tell you right now, I run 2 very successful companies, and they've been successful through the pandemic. But if it was left up to me to run them and to balance the books, we would have gone bankrupt years ago, and I would have had some really fucking cool toys in that warehouse.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone back to Sarah and said, "Hey, I've just seen this new illusion. It's £40,000. Can I buy it?" And she's like, "Fuck off."
Well, give me a second. No, you can't.
No, you can't. Stick with the 15 illusions that you've got in that warehouse that you haven't used once. You know, let's let's go with that. So she runs the companies, and it's very full on. You know, she films all of the stuff for Magic TV. She runs all the companies. I mean, we're fortunate in that we have an office. We have a team of people. It's not just us. We have staff that can help with various different things. So, but if there's one thing that the pandemic's taught me, is I'm going to be performing less, because pre-pandemic I was performing. I was in the office 9 to 5, and then I was leaving the office. I was going out and I was doing a gig like 5 or 6 days a week, and that's all I was doing. And over the pandemic, I've had a chance to just basically spend a lot of time with Ryland, teaching him magic and watching him improve and watching him grow. And, you know, we're now in a situation in the UK where things are opening up. And what I don't want to do is go back to a situation where I don't see my kids again. So I'm still going to be performing. I can't not perform. There's no chance I can not perform. I'm still going to be performing, but I'm going to be taking more of an office role and focusing on that, running that side of the company, because my background's marketing, as you know, whilst at the same time still doing Magic TV, because and I want to do that because A, I feel like I'm making a difference, but B, I like spending time with Ryland. You know, it's my favorite time of the, like, we'll talk about your company in a second, but we're just sitting around. We've spent the last probably 4 or 5 days just messing around with Grandfather's Top. Like, and Ryland's learning it to review it, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." We just sit there, like, literally after school for like 2 hours every single day, floating things up in the air, and he's loving it, and I'm loving it, and that's what I want. So yeah,
good for you, man. Yeah. Good for you. Like I said, I saw it 5, 6, 7 years ago and went, Craig's gonna, because I the first time I'd met you virtually, I guess you would say, is Wizard Product Review. Actually, no, you and I met right as I started. Yep. Right as I started at Illusionist
convention.
Yep. And it was the shift key. And we sat down and I sort of showed you the shift key. And then I started following, because I was trying to do a lot more performing at the time. And what do? You find somebody who's successful and you steal what they're doing, right? You do it yourself. And there were a few people in the States that I would follow. And then I remember seeing what you and David were doing. And David's a different approach, but I just remember being like, oh man. And then that's when I reached out on LinkedIn and was like, yo, you're clearly killing the marketing game what's the secret? And in a nutshell, you basically said, hustle. Like, get the work done, man. It's not hard work. It's not rocket science. It's just get the hustle. So, you know, it's awesome to see that it's gotten you to where you are, and then you can pull back a little bit now, you know, still make your money, push off some shows, but, you know, be there as a more present father and still get your performing fix as well. That's basically the exact same thing I'm trying to do. You know, I'd like to do more speeches because they pay a lot more, but do one a month, and then, you know, invent magic that makes an impact in one way or another.
And you know what? That brings us perfectly onto Vulpine, because the first product you put out was Grandfather's Top, which is incredible. I love it. I really do. Rylan loves it. I love it. Awesome. And it's just, it's so cool. And it sold so well for you as well.
Yeah, we got lucky. I mean, that was, levitations are, you know, you can't follow a levitation, right? But I just never seen one that I liked. I loved Perry Maynard's Light Flight. Do you remember Light Flight?
I do, yeah. With the ball, wasn't it? It was the light up ball. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
It was a showstopper. And when I worked in New Orleans at the Magic Masters in the mall there, that was my bread and butter. I made commission and I'd sell those things like crazy. But it was still like, why is it spinning? And you know what? It's not quite making sense. And then years and years ago, I put a hook up on a spinning top and did it off the table. And I was like, whoa, that's logical. That it almost adds a layer of deception just because it's supposed to be spinning, you know. And then, you know, built some story around it. And a lot of that story of that presentation is true. My grandfather did inspire creativity and all that. So when we launched that, it was not too expensive to make, so we could fund it. We did all the trailer and everything on our own, and we got lucky. Murphy's picked it up, and 4 or 5 people have reviewed it, and they've all been glowing reviews. What I didn't realize is that so many thread workers neglect their tutorial, right? They buy the product and they go, hook it up this way and do this and this, but they skip over what makes it practical and usable. Like, well, how do I get 20 of these things made up quickly so I can work it? Or what happens if it snaps in performance? And I was really excited to see that that's what the feedback was, that they really enjoyed the tutorial and the depth of it, which is really what we're striving for at Vulpine. Is we're not going to sell you something, we're going to sell you everything, right? So if you buy this, you're not just going to get the trick and hey, thanks, but you have access to me directly. If you have a question, hit me up. Like, one of our things at Vulpine is if you buy a product from Vulpine, you can upload a video and I'll send you a video back personally, not critiquing it, but just saying, hey, that was really dope. Maybe think about this, and just giving some honest feedback. So we both know when you go perform this to people that we've ironed out everything that needed to be ironed out. And I think that's one thing the magic community is lacking, right? Is this impulsive, you're my customer, so buy my product. Once you've bought my product, we're done. Your business is successful, I would guess, because of the polar opposite of that. You might have hired me for a show, but we're now friends, and we're going to remain friends regardless if you hire me or not in the next 3 years. Why don't we do that with our magic products, right? Why don't we give somebody a product and then back that up, and not just the product, but their development of the use of that product, or the development of being a magician. We used to have mentors and clubs and stuff, but we could still do that as companies, right? We could stand behind our products, only put out enough products that we can actually help these people. So you're not doing a product a week where it's like, oh, it's too much, but you're putting out stuff you believe in and can actually help people perform. And that's really what our goal is. I don't know how scalable it will be, because if we end up blowing up, then obviously if 1,000 video submissions come in a week, I can't respond to them all, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You know, our real mission right now is to put out magic that we believe in, complete magic that isn't just an idea that gives them a script, that gives them everything they'll need, but then also back that up with, here's my phone number. Call me if you have a question. If you call 4 times a day, you're going to get blocked, right? But like, most people are respectful enough that they'll they'll appreciate that. Hey, I have a question. Can I use this thread? Hey, can I do, that helps us because now we're knowing where our gaps in our products might be. And it hopefully helps the people performing it. So when they go perform that, hey, that was an amazing piece of magic. Where'd you get that? Vulpine, right? It's all the same thing. It's bettering everybody. And if they do it well, the people who watch them go, yep, I saw a magician. I love magicians. I'm going to hire another magician, as opposed to, no, I've seen a magician on social media and he just showed me how the trick worked. And that I don't need to hire that. People can say it's not bad for magic, but it is. Putting bad magic online is bad for magic, especially when bad magic is the most viewed shit on Facebook. That's bad for magicians. I don't care if you think, well, it's not going to affect my show. It compounds, right? That's a compounding effect. That's why we have all these cycles in magic, of magic being cool, then we're dorks, then it's cool, then we're dorks. Blaine did a huge push to make it cool again, because that's what people saw. Everyone saw Blaine. Now everyone can see there's some great social media magicians, and there's people who are content creators that will do anything for views, but they use what we cherish, the word magician, as a crutch. Well, the general public doesn't know that. The general public thinks that's a real magician. That's not good for magic. And it's going to continue to not be good for magic. I saw the thing you did with the kid who, I forget his name. He's super sweet, but he goes, 3, 2, 1, let's go on all of his things. Super sweet kid.
Dan Rhodes.
And you nailed it. You were like, you're a very creative and smart kid. You don't have to expose. You don't have to do this with fake reactions. You don't have to. You can do good magic. And I'm seeing a few people doing good, fun magic. But if you look at the most viewed Facebooks, 5 out of the 10 are fake reactions, horrible magic, exposings. That's what the general public's going to start thinking magic is. And trust me, it will be harder to book a $5,000 corporate show if that's what people think magic is. So it's a soapbox, but I used to firmly believe, who gives a shit? It's not affecting my business. I'm changing my thought on that. I think it is affecting magic. And if a billion people see, I'm not going to say people's names, but see a social media magician that is doing it for the views and for the content as opposed to magic, that's what people are going to start thinking magicians are. So hopefully we can combat that, but we might have a long road ahead of us.
I think it's a long road, but I totally agree with you 100%. And I've done a few rants on a Friday about that very subject, as you know. But no, I completely agree with you, Adam. Completely agree with you. Let me ask you a question. Where did the name Vulpine come from?
So foxes have always been really important in my life. My first company was called Fox Magic. They're like, you see an animal all the time that it's like it's following you around. The fox was always that for me. And Vulpine means fox-like, crafty, and cunning. And that's what we are as magicians, right? We're cunning and we're crafty. And I wanted something in the name to be fox themed, and just started Googling and researching and found Vulpine. And I was like, I like that. That sounds good. And that's where it came from.
Awesome. That's nice. Now, I spoke to you off camera and you talked about you've got like 7 or 8 products lined up with Vulpine that you're working on. And this is amazing because I really 100% believe in what you're doing. I don't think there's any other companies out there that are taking this personal approach. And I know that you genuinely care about making good magicians. It's not for you about just selling a trick and the bottom line, which is amazing to see. Can you give us
obviously we want to sell tricks, right?
Yeah.
But any successful business is always put it, the product and the service has to come first. And then, right, there's the saying, help enough people get what they want in life and you'll get everything you want out of life. Yeah. I think that's it. And it's like what you're doing on these channels. You don't have to do this. This is time consuming. You're not getting paid for this. YouTube's not writing you checks. But at the end of the day, in 10 years from now, some kid's going to stumble on something and realize, hey, there was nothing in this for me except advice. So why wouldn't I take that from somebody who's doing what I want to be doing, making a full-time living, supporting a family as a magician? And that's kind of what we're trying to marry, is that capitalism with that helpful. And we'll see. I mean, obviously it can't scale, and you've seen it with other companies, but they seem to always grow out of it. And we're really hoping that we can just keep it as a two-man show and never really grow out of that. I don't think it'll be the only thing that we can do. We have some other really, bigger projects in the works that are actually Vulpine Industries. Vulpine Creation, Vulpine Creations is our magic shop. The Industries is the bigger. My partner is an innovation specialist and a genius. So we have some other workshop and cool stuff that I don't want to say can be taken more seriously, but almost is a little more challenging business-wise. You know what I mean? So that's the goal. I mean, if we help enough people become better magicians, at least we've done our part to make magic a little bit better, or at least try to,
Well, you've mentioned several times about your partner. I mean, is this somebody that people would know? How did you guys hook up and meet?
I did a keynote speech for his company on creativity, 360 Lab in London. So I went to London and did a keynote, and he bought a product at E, and he's a hobbyist. So he reached out and said, hey, I loved this project of yours. Would you want to do a speech? And did that speech. We hit it off. We felt like we knew each other forever, and came back about a year later, randomly just called him up and said, it's like you with your wife. If it was up to me to run Vulpine and get it all set up and all the business LLC, like, you've lost me. But he's a genius with all that. So I just said, hey, weird question. Would you want to start a magic company together? And he got, super excited, and that was it. That was the start. He's a great guy. He's learning magic. And part of what we're going to be doing at Vulpine very shortly is launching videos on our YouTube, which are, we're going through all the big books. So Showmanship for Magician, Maximum Entertainment, Strong Magic by Darwin Ortiz, and the performance side of it. And we're reading a chapter, and then we're doing a video podcast where he'll ask me questions about that chapter, and I can give him the advice of 30 years in magic. So we're going to sort of take all these great ideas and thoughts. He'll ask the questions as a novice trying to learn and sort of grow into being a master magician over the years, and people will get to see that evolution. And hopefully through some of the questions he'll ask, the questions they might have will get answered along the way. And the other thing is, a lot of people have never even heard of Showmanship for Magicians or Strong Magic or Maximum Entertainment. So it's giving them content that we think they need. Tricks are tricks. Go to Penguin and buy any trick you want, and you're a magician. But watching him, the idea will be that this guy's not a great magician yet. So here's all the stuff we did to get him there. And then we're going to film his full performance after he's applied these things. And hopefully somebody can see that and go, I'm where he is, and I want to get to where he went. Cool. I have to, go this course. So
That's fun.
He's a very smart guy, very dedicated guy. He's got chops. It's not like he's a bum, but he's learning the theater, right? What differentiates you from someone who's just doing tricks. And that's, I really think that comes with experience. So the goal will be, through my experience, to sort of speed up his process, hopefully.
Okay, that's great. And can you give us a sneak peek? I'm not asking you to perform anything, but
sure.
Can you talk about anything that you've got coming out? Because I mean, Grandfather's Top was an amazing product. How are you going to even top that, man?
So this is the next project that will be coming out. It's called the Genesis System. And what this does is takes what we've all known for a while and flips it on its head. So if you watch, you're going to slowly start to see a bill actually appear as if it was CGI or computer animation. And this is 100% not computer animation. The lighting is pretty bad.
That's incredible.
So we have basically taken thermochromatic ink, flipped it on its head, and we've got an entire project that uses this thermochromatic ink. So here's another, for instance. Let's say you want to take out digital force bag, and I'm going to say, hey, look, here's a blank piece of paper. I'm going to put this in your hand, and then I'm going to have you think of a celebrity, digital force bag them, okay, or whatever you want. And now you can either say, I want you to send that celebrity like this was your blank canvas, like really imagine them there. And your brain is a lot more powerful than you may think. Now, it's hard to really emphasize that, but if you can just envision that person, almost like a silhouette, think of them as a silhouette and watch. And now they'll slowly start to see, let's see if I can get the lighting. There we go. They'll slowly start to see the person that they're just thinking of come into play.
Oh, wow. That is so spooky.
So you can speed it up if you rub your fingers over it and cool it down. It'll speed up the process a bit. But basically, this is a new way of doing what we've all known as write something, burn it, that disappears, right? Well, we've got it in reverse now, where there's going to be something blank that appears. It's taking forever right now because I used a lighter, and that heats the paper up too much. The real way we activate these is hand warmers. So you've got a wallet that has hand warmers on both sides. So when you pull the item out, it's just the right temperature that it'll take, depending on your environment, it'll take anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute for it to fully appear. When you use a lighter, the paper gets so hot that it takes a little while.
But that's not a problem, because obviously, as long as you know you're scripting ahead of time, that builds up anticipation. I mean, that
you can also you don't have to do it in a reveal. So the way I do that silhouette is there's 3 silhouettes, and I've got this one as well. So that's a confabulation. It's all it's marked up, so it looks a little fuzzy, but that's Brad Pitt drinking coffee with London. There's the time on the clock, and he got there on a balloon. So that's a full confabulation that I can pull out as a blank piece of paper, have them sign the back of this and show, hey, there's nothing on either side. Can you confirm that? And they're really staring at it and seeing there's nothing. You then place it in their hand, so they're staring at their signature. You go through a full confabulation, and the prediction that's been in their hand from the very start, when they turn it over, is now printed itself. So you can do it as a visual where they see it appear, or you can do it as a blank card that magically appears when they turn it back over. I mean, I've got a clue thing, a really dope clue thing where they see different weapons, right? And then they've got all these different victims. So they pick a weapon, they pick a victim, and again, the reveal, Mr. Green did it with a gun. So they get this blank, right? Or again, it's sort of, this is the only product that we're putting out that I haven't, and I'll be blatantly honest about, haven't road tested, right? This isn't something that I've done for 2 years to the general public. This is new. I just know that there's so much potential, and the creative people that buy this, that's what I'm excited about, is for people to get it, show me what they've done with it, or better yet, go, hey, can you make X, Y, and Z? Because
will you do custom jobs with this as well?
Yeah.
So can I buy the set when it comes out and then contact you and go, because I'm just sitting here thinking, I want my business cards printed on that thing.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's actually, we'll supply business cards. So you can have, like, this is my actual business card. The cool thing about these is, that's my cat. The cool thing about this is, at an event, so I'll pull this out. I invented Pyro Wallet. This with Pyro Wallet is fucking amazing, because you look, as a magician, the argument is fine. I get it. Who needs business cards anymore, right? We all have all of our contact information. We can bop phones, and I got it. But as a magician, especially a strolling magician, one of the hardest things to do is for everybody at the event to notice you. And Bill Malone does it great, right? Bill Malone. And he even says he goes through the entire event and makes sure he reaches all the corners. So event planner sees that all throughout. Brilliant marketing, right? Well, now you can say, Oh, even if you're not asked, I'll just say, oh, you want a business card? And someone will say yes. And now you pull out a wallet, you pull out a card with a 3-foot flame that comes off of it, you blow it out, and then you hold it and they watch as your business card magically appears. Okay. So that's cool in and of itself. But then I tell them, hey, all this is look, if you heat it up, it disappears and then it comes back. And I'll show them that because almost every corporate event has candles on the table. So now you've got 10, 15 people going throughout the event showing your business card to everybody because they want them to see, oh, look, it magically appears. So now you've got your marketing done for you, and people will keep it because it is unique, right? It's almost like a magic trick in its own. So that was a long sales pitch, but yes, we will offer business cards. It's 1,000 business cards is $250, and I print them by myself in the basement by hand. And really, you can probably give us any design you want except halftones. So straight black and white, basically. No shading or anything like that. We'll also have a bunch of templates you can pick from. But if you say, hey, this is, you know, I want a caricature of my face or whatever, we can make it happen. But also larger scale things. You know, if you want, there's a guy who did a play in Japan, and there's this emperor in Japan, Hiro. I'm not going to try because I'll butcher his name, but it's like a 6-foot picture frame on stage the whole time. And when they cue the thing, it turns the heating panel behind the picture frame off, and they blow a fan so it appears a little quicker. And this 6-foot picture of this guy just magically appears. And it's not a magic show, it's a play, but that piece of magic is like the end of their whole play. It's beautiful. So those are the kind of things I'm excited about, is that, you know, what other things can people dream up that are far more creative than I? And then hopefully they hit me up, and this will be version 1 of Genesis. I know there'll be a version 2, and this is all kind of the close-up stuff. I already have some ideas for the stage applications for it, but that'll be in another iteration and another go round. So we've got Grandfather's Top on the market now. Then we'll have Genesis System. We're hoping within 2 to 3 weeks that's on the market. And then there's a lot in store, but I've got another, this little bad boy, which is what I've wanted for 10 years.
Well, I've been lucky enough for you to give me a sneak peek of that. And I'm telling you, having seen that, that is the best version of that plot that I have ever seen. And I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And I guarantee you, when people know what that is, it's going to just sell like hotcakes because it is so super practical. And it does, I don't want to give too much away, but what it does it better than anything I've ever seen on the market.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the one downside of the small team, is it's launch a product, hopefully sell enough to then fund the next project. So, you know, we've got 8 things queued up. But it's right now it's sell Genesis, take that funding, because we could get outside investors, but then that immediately puts us into that same wheelhouse of you're answering to someone. Whereas if we do everything 100% on our own, there's no one can force us to put something out that we don't want to. So we're excited, but it's a slow start. Like, you know, I mean, we're starting a company from scratch. So we're going to slowly leak a couple items, hopefully get enough to fund. And then this is so this is very soon. This is my coffee cups and balls, which is going to be
man.
This honestly, my goal is to enter FISM with this routine, but yeah, it's just exciting. I mean, I've never had as much creative excitement because it's our company. If we succeed, it's on us. If we fail, it's on us. Nobody else, you know.
Well, is there a URL that people can go to get on your mailing list? Because I know, although Grandfather's Top went out through every dealer in the country, there's going to be certain things that you're bringing out in the future that will be not necessarily everywhere. So
yeah, just vulpinecreations.com. If you just go to Vulpine Creations, VULPINE, just as it sounds, creations.com, there is a sign up and we'll give you some free trick stuff. That gets you on our email list. We really we're probably not very good at that. I could probably use some advice from you on that, but we don't send anything out. We're genuinely just asking, hey, is everything cool? Do you like your product? Can we help you in any way? And then at some point, we're going to be Gregory Wilson and I are going to be doing some video series where we look at the best performances over time and we analyze what's making them such great performances. And then also what I talked about with my partner and his evolution. When those come out, we'll sort of hit people up with emails and say, hey, there's a new video talking about X, Y, and Z. But we're just trying to be the company that we wish, like, don't oversell us. Don't send me an email every day. If you look at Cody Fisher's email list, he does it perfectly. Because when his email comes in, I'm excited because there's an unbelievable amount of free, extremely valuable content from a worker, like a real worker. So that's what that's what we want to do. We want, if the email comes in and you see it's from Vulpine, that you get excited. You don't go unsubscribe. So just vulpinecreations.com.
Perfect. Now, before we wrap this whole interview up, Adam, I've got one last question for you, which is outside of what you're doing with Vulpine Creations, and we've kind of touched on this before earlier in the interview, but my last question is, what's next? And what I mean by that is you've done so much in your career. General Manager of Illusionist, Fooling Penn and Teller. You've had numerous TV spots. You've performed at the top of your game for many, many years. Best-selling products. I mean, you've done it all and then some.
Make me feel old.
Oh my God, you've done so much. Is there anything left outside of Vulpine Industries on your bucket list, on your magical bucket list, that you want to achieve that you haven't yet done?
Yeah. We're writing a book and we're really, really excited about this book because it is, it's talking about innovation through the eyes of a magician. And as an inventor of magic, we know our ground zero is impossible, right? So we're starting with impossible. Most companies look at all of their obstacles as that. Well, it's impossible. But we always have a solution as magicians. And we're taking some of the best creators in magic and interviewing them, probably 6 or so. Paul Harris is on board, which is unbelievable. And then we're also taking people like vice president of Volkswagen, people that own and run massive corporations that my partner has connections with. And we're writing a book on that. This, if we do it right, what we're trying to accomplish is at the end of every chapter is like you just experienced a magic trick. So, you know, that moment of, some people call it astonishment, but I like release. So the effect is done and you've realized, okay, that's it. And that moment of release, we want that same feeling at the end of every chapter. So it's a very lofty goal that is going to be hard to pull off, but that I think will be the thing that I'm like the most proud of if we can really pull it off.
That sounds awesome.
It should be pretty cool. But like, it's like you, man, you know, juggling 15 different things at once. Really, it's starting something, because once we get the proposal, then things will start to fall into place. But right now we are full crunch on getting projects out so we can get some funding and start backing the other stuff we have in mind.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Before we go, I'll show you a quick trick.
I would love to see a quick trick.
This is cute. So I'm gonna switch the camera angle. And we'll go from here to here. It's a little bright, but I think you can still see. So we've got a little wallet, and inside of the wallet are 2 things, some playing cards and a black envelope. We'll get to the black envelope in a minute, but for now we'll focus on the playing cards. 2 queens, 2 sevens. It's a 7 of hearts, 7 of clubs, queen of hearts, and queen of clubs. Now here's the thing. Only one of these is going to work, and you get to decide. So it's really, your odds aren't that bad. You've got a 1 in 4 chance. But Craig, out of these 4, which card is it going to be? 7 of hearts, clubs, queen of hearts, or clubs?
Queen of hearts.
The queen of hearts. Now you're going to have to, for the viewers, admit we did not set this up beforehand. I didn't say queen of hearts. All I said is only one card would work. Because if you would have named 7 of hearts, 7 of clubs, or queen of clubs, trick wouldn't have worked at all. Pretty cool, huh? Well, you probably got some questions. I understand. I've got a couple questions myself. First one being, wait, what the hell just happened? And second being, where did the cards go? When did they disappear? And why aren't there any faces and backs? Oh, well, the answer's been sitting here the whole time. Wait, what? Look in the wallet. Well, I said inside the wallet, right? And you said Queen of Hearts?
Yeah.
Cool, because there's a little black envelope inside the wallet with one card, the Queen of Hearts.
Wow. That's amazing.
Little fun one. Super easy. You can make this in no time.
Is that actually Justin getting released?
Yeah, I mean, so Justin Miller and I were jamming, and we co-created this. He's released it on his site already, but so one of the projects of Vulpine is called Packets. So it's 5 of my all-time favorite packet tricks that I've never shown anybody that's a magician, and I'm going to put them all probably either all together, or you can buy them for a little discount or buy them each individually, and this will be one of the ones that goes out in that.
That is incredible. I love that. I've never seen that before.
It's a fun little quick opener, you know, if you go, oh, let's try something out. So I'm doing this on virtual to say, we got to look, I don't know where you're at and what the communications with the wavelength. So let's just see if we're on the same page here. And then I'll start with that. And it's a nice way to playfully, the thing I like about it is that you never really know what your script will be, because I don't know which cards are going to pop up first. So I have to sort of be in the moment as I'm doing it, which I like. It makes it feel like I'm not a robot to them, you know?
That's really good. And again, that'll be announced through your website.
You got it. Yep.
Get on the mailing list is the point we're trying to make here.
Yep. And we give you some cool free magic too if you sign up for the email list.
That's brilliant. You know what, Adam? This has been an amazing interview. Like I said, I've been wanting to get you on the channel for a long time. You've done so much, and the advice that you've given freely in this interview has just been nothing short of phenomenal. And I want to thank you. And I know your work ethic, and I know your drive and your determination. I know that whatever you choose to do, you're going to be massively successful. Because
thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on here. I've been watching what you're doing and greatly admire it. So appreciate you having me on here.
No, thanks, man. I want everyone to support you. I'm going to drop the URL again down below. Make sure you check it out. If you haven't seen Grandfather's Top, check it out. Look out for the review on the Craig and Ryan Review Show. That's really good. And keep an eye out on any other product that Adam and Vulpine put out, because they're going to be amazing.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem. Guys, do me a favor. You want to see more videos like this? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Most important, leave a comment down below, because I'm sure Adam will see them. I'm going to be back tomorrow with another 4 videos tomorrow. So we've got 4 videos going out tomorrow. 1 at 2, 1 at 6, 1 at 12, and 1 at 9. So I'll see you. I'll see you again tomorrow. I don't get it myself. I just don't know.
You got to sleep at some time, man.
Yeah. Yeah, at some point. I do occasionally.
Yeah.
Guys, I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.